Hey everybody, MyQuest here. I'm back again in my Let's Play world. I'm standing on top of Xisuma's Create Tree Farm gadget, which is amazing. And I've had about a week to work with it now, and I've made some improvements to my version of it, and I thought I would let you guys know. I've also got some info on some aspects of the farm that could be really helpful in creating your own. So, without further ado, let's take a look. First off, I would like to talk about trees. There is a bunch of tree types in Minecraft, and you probably think that this tree farm can't handle all of them, and you'd be right if you thought that. It is pretty good though at what it does handle. Now, it can grow technically all of them, but you can't do the big 4x4s, and what I mean by that is spruce 4x4 trees and jungle log 4x4s. Technically you can, but it will only grow at the very end of the farm right here. So you'll get one big one at the end, and then none of the other saplings will grow. You may notice what's going on here with my tree farm currently is I have different types of trees growing. Now on the end here, we have jungle down there, jungle wood. We have spruce here, so those are the two big ones, but they're being done in a single row, the saplings, so they'll only grow the single trunk type. Then you have over here birch and acacia. So I'm growing some of the ones that I needed pretty much. I had plenty of oak from this farm, and I had way too much dark oak from this farm. This thing produces wood at an amazing rate, even without bone meal. With bone meal, it's kind of ridiculous. But dark oak will grow properly. It is a 4x4 tree, but it has no problem growing in a big strip. So you can place 2 strips of dark oak here and get tons of tree growth from that. Another thing you might be wondering is how do you handle the deployers here if it's covered up by the chassis? Pretty easy. You just say you want this one to be acacia. I would just click on that right there holding an acacia, and then I would click right here, right there, right there with the acacia sapling, and it would prime it. Now, I don't want this to be acacia. This is jungle wood, so I need some jungle saplings. And here we go. Just like that. And you'll see it took the jungle sapling, and I now have acacia saplings. So it's pretty easy to prime. No problem. You can change it easily whenever you need to. This is just the latest setup I'm doing so I can produce more types of trees. So really quick, why don't we turn this thing on and see how it's working. Also, if you haven't seen it just yet, I suggest watching the first tutorial for this farm where I teach you how to make it and show you the adjustments that I've made over Xisuma's original version, which is amazing. So if you haven't seen it, I will add a link to the description and you can find it there. Look at that amazingness, and it's replanting everything. Look in here, let's see what we get. Not too bad, huh? Now you may notice that it isn't fully filling up some of these areas with saplings. It did pretty well for the most part, but birch is lacking. All that means is it didn't have enough saplings to fully plant, but never fear, this farm is amazing. As birch trees grow, it will collect more saplings and eventually fill up the area for you so you don't have to do it. Once it's got a little bit of a start, so that's pretty handy. Next, you see, I have it stopped down here. This is to simulate what happens when you leave a chunk. Now, these farms, as amazing as they are, they don't work when the chunk is unloaded. Now, if you had a chunk loader, I'm sure that would help, but honestly, it probably doesn't need it. So, if you find yourself with a stuck tree farm just like this, it'll often be stuck down on the back end. All you gotta do is toggle the clutch. And there we go. It's moving again. And here it comes. Sometimes it might stop in between and the gantry shaft will still be moving. Then you want to toggle the gear shift and that'll bring it back. And here it comes. Lowering down, beautiful. One change I made was I put a barrel here instead of a chest. Kind of like the idea of the opening, the hole opening and going into the chassis itself. And barrels cause less lag than chests, so why not? Something else I did for convenience, if you look down here, we have the belt still underneath here. But when you're using this and you're trying to check what you got, a lot of times you'll get stuck and be a bit of annoyance. So for aesthetics and ease of use, I just put a slab over this to get rid of that little problem. Next, you may notice that this area over here is a lot cleaner and simplified. Before, we had a line of redstone dust coming off of this adjustable repeater. Over here was this redstone link, and then the redstone dust would move this way into two different adjustable repeaters. This was so you could hit just that right point of, I believe it was 2 3/4 seconds, so that the bone meal contraption would work properly. And then after the two repeaters, we had a redstone line coming over here and another one coming up here to trigger two separate things so that the bone meal would work properly, the bone meal dispenser. Turns out I made that way more difficult than it needed to be, and in fixing the problem, I think I cleaned some other things up. So also before, you may remember, there was a little bit of a 3x2x1 structure right here, just some blocks. Now I've moved the observer to right here, from right there. This is going to help to condense the system and save you on some parts, so it's not as costly making this farm, which honestly is not very costly as it is. Now up here, I made just this little area to control things and to display things. Not necessary though. So you'll see we have the observer right here in line with the gantry. Then over here, we have the portable storage interface, which was over there delivering the bone meal before. And this is our bone meal delivery system right here. You may remember there was a chute here, and then the smart chute, and then the chest. The chute wasn't necessary and was causing an issue where when you would first log into the world every time, it would spew out all the bone meal that it had inside, so that wasn't good. This new system works great and takes less material, which is always nice. So how this system works is when the tree cutter comes down, it reaches that point, raises up, and when it gets to the top, this observer reads it, sends a pulse through this block into this adjustable repeater set on 1 second delay. After that second delay, the pulse comes out, triggers the redstone link, which sends the thing back on its way, but the power also travels over here and turns off this redstone torch for just a moment. Doing so releases 1 stack of items from this chest into this smart chute. So now the system will be primed for the next delivery. What that means is on your first run through, if you've just filled this up with something, it won't pick up anything from it, but it'll drop the first stack in there. If you had just filled it up and you don't want to wait for that extra run, you can just take off this redstone torch and put it right back and it'll drop one down perfect. No fuss. Now you'll see over here I gathered some bone meal. Still not that easy for me to get bone meal in my Let's Play world, but I did just for you guys. Personally, I don't need the bone meal because these produce way too fast as it is, but I kind of wanted to show you guys how great it is. So let's go ahead and turn on the system and see how things work. Here it comes. Triggers the observer, sends the link, and there we go. And as you see, there's 1 stack gone. Means it's in there waiting for its next run through. Here we come. We just got our stack of bone meal. The observer sending us on our way. And let's take a look. Look at all that great bone mealing happening. Now you may notice right here, there's a nice smooth animation there as it goes up. Gets the stack of bone meal, continues on. It doesn't look all vanishy and ugly, which that's nice. Now that vanishing, it took a little bit of tracking down, but I was able to figure out what was causing it, and I have a fix for it, and I can tell you how that happens. You see right there, it vanished. what's happening is, as the tree cutter comes back down, it gets to right here, and then this section pulls it down. You can see right there. Now, when the tree cutter gets right here, it's still in any form, but it tries to turn back into block form because this portion is done. But this thing is grabbing it right away and pulling it down. So in essence, it's disappearing for that instant to turn back into block form, but this thing grabs it when it's vanished so that it isn't able to reappear until it gets down to the bottom and turns back into block form. There you go. So then over here, it raises all nice and moves on its way. Now down there, I left it how it was. You can add something like this down there if you'd like. I just wanted to be able to show you guys the difference on each side. What I did to make it so that we can see it go up every time, which is purely cosmetic, really makes no difference. It's just if you want to be able to see it or not, and if you want to use this extra material or not. Now how this works is, as that gantry right there comes in, it stops right there on top of the observer. The observer reads it, pulses down into the block, which sends the power through the redstone and into this toggle latch, which is great. You can see the toggle latch is powering that thing. That is a clutch. And the default position for this thing needs to be on so that it's not spinning. You power the clutch to turn it off, just like that. So again, here's the gantry moving in, triggers the observer, raises up. Now when the other observer sends this thing away, it'll trigger it again, and it'll flip that switch back, so now it's off again. So this will toggle twice when it comes in, once turning it on and once turning it off. This will give it time to switch mode from entity to block and back without having that ugly invisible spike in there. And just to show you what we got from our initial run and then everything with the bone meal, that's it. Pretty good. We got 4 different types of trees generating there, and we're getting a decent amount of them. Birch seems to grow a little bit slower. Now I stopped the machine here so I could show you something else. If you remember the old system where the redstone came here and triggered the bone meal machine, which we removed, had the portable intake controller thing here, so that it would come off the side and interact with the machine on the side. I removed that and I put it right here in the middle, so it's nice and symmetrical, just for Xisuma. And it looks nicer, we gotta admit. Also, initially, I didn't have a clutch right here to turn off this system, so I put a lever right there, and you can jam it in the cog and stop it from moving. So now this part of the machine can be turned off when not in use. Well, everybody, I've been using this magical farm that Xisuma created quite a bit. I've learned a lot from it in the last week, and I think it's in a great state right now. It's really as efficient as I think it can be for this kind of setup. The timing of the system is no longer linked to the size of the strip. You can now make the strip whatever size you want and it'll work just fine. And you can see we've experimented with the different tree types and we know what works and what doesn't now. So I hope you all enjoy this farm. If you come up with any upgrades, I would love to hear about it. Take care all, and we'll see you next time.